Good morning. Well, for me, it's 8 a.m. I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible because I need to get to the point. There's a point of this episode, and the point is that on on Monday evening, my gorgeous friend Esther said, "Hey, I'm going to go and see Gecko's kin in Norwich tomorrow. Do you want to come?" For context, today is Friday, so very, very recent this happened. And I went, oh, well, I was going to go to Tesco, but I negotiated with Joe and he went to Tesco instead. So actually we ended up going, but by the by, I ended up going to see Kin in Norwich. And it was my first time seeing Gecko perform. It's actually the first time I got to experience any of their work because I've worked with Helen before, and heard about Gecko in theory, and I guess probably like used some of their work within the sessions, but apart from seeing little snippets on social media, I hadn't actually done any research. I really wanted to go and see a show and then like have that be my first ever Gecko experience, and then go and absorb everything. So I was like, my first time seeing Gecko has to be a moment, it has to be a big deal. And the fact that Esther invited me, and it was the East Anglian premiere of Kin, meant it was going to be huge. And when I got there, I just wasn't expecting it at all. It's like, I mean, I won't name them all because you might be listening to this and not know who any of these people are, but like all my friends were there that I didn't know were gonna be there, and it was the most beautiful, oh my god, you're here and you're here and you're here, and we all came together. Obviously the theatre was in Norwich, but there was a huge Suffolk crowd. But obviously I'm from Norfolk, so I had a huge Norwich and Norfolk crowd of my friends who were there as well. It was a mind-blowing experience. It actually overwhelmed me quite a lot, and I couldn't it took me a second to process. Me and Esther just had to like take ourselves away and go to the bar because there was a lot going on. Anyway, it was a 90-minute show. I had an inkling that there wouldn't be an interval. I didn't check it out, so all the way through, ADHD, I was thinking, is there going to be an interval? I don't think there is, I don't think there is. And then there wasn't, so I was right, trust your instincts. But I'll just talk on, just for quick context, this is a totally uncut podcast, so I'm going to try and just speak all the things that I need to say, but there will be random stuff in there that unfortunately can't be edited out because it goes against the magic of the podcast. Anyway, what was I saying? So, it was 90 minutes long, and it started like immediately, and it was just like, oh, okay, we're starting now. And also the context is, I don't know much about physical theatre. I'm going to group contemporary dance in here as well. I know bits about contemporary dance, but me and contemporary dance have a very love-hate relationship, emphasis on the hate. So I was like, where does physical theatre fit into this? I don't think I've consciously gone to watch some physical theatre before. Anyway, like within the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh no, this is fine. This is brilliant. This is great. But like, what could I expect? Is Gecko. So, yeah, I was hooked immediately, and just buying into, oh yeah, this is fine. This is absolutely fine. I'm going to be deliberately vague about the show. Number one, because I can't remember everything that happened, and number two, I feel like you should just go and watch it, essentially. But actually no, what I can do is I'm going to read the bio. Okay, let me get that up. I got it on my phone, and now I just need to scroll back. Okay, this is what it says. Kin. We exist both where we've come from and where we're going. As a young child in 1932, Leah embarked on an epic journey from Yemen to Palestine. 90 years later, her grandson, Gecko's artistic director Amit, imagines the voyage her family made to escape persecution and to build a better life. Gecko's 8th theatre production sees Amit together with Gecko's extraordinary ensemble of international devising performers. Wow, that's a sentence. It's not finished yet. Present a provocative story of desperation and compassion. At a time when the rebirth of community and acceptance seems vital to our survival, they bring their own experiences of migration, racism, empathy, and home to this poetically intoxicating performance. Still not over. Prepared to be moved to the core by Gecko's hypnotizing beauty, compelling global soundtrack, yep, can attest to that, it was amazing, and unbarred emotion. Look inwards and ask, who am I and where do I belong? Well, that was a lot. Try to say that 3 times really quick. Essentially what I just read was exactly what happened. As someone that has experienced migration second hand, I guess, so my dad and his parents emigrated from Jamaica around Windrush time, but not on the boat. They actually came by plane. I have a really interesting relationship with migration, and I always find it interesting to there are some times where there's pain, and maybe sometimes I don't feel entitled to have the pain because I'm not an immigrant, if you see what I mean. In this show, I think assimilation was a huge thing that came across to me, in as much as the general skin tone across the board was quite light brown with like a few differences, but like that was quite there and prominent. And there were scenes where people would like suddenly like paint their faces white, or I guess it wasn't paint, it was like a powder thing, and it was just such a stark whoa, like that you'd see people on stage try to try to cross a border, and for me, I didn't know what country or what border. Like the whole time it felt like it was just, I don't know if transcendent is the right word, but that's the word I'm going to use even though it's wrong, is countries and nationalities and ethnicities and borders, that there were no specifics and rules. It was a general story what came across to me in that way. And there was a border that a group of people were trying to cross, and they weren't allowed through. I don't know if the people that were allowed through were French, but they were like super couldn't tell you, like there were caricatures of I guess being European, I guess is all I can say. There were caricatures of that, and of course they walked right through border control. And anyway, this group of people couldn't walk through, and then later on there's moments where they assimilate, like they have a white face and they have a tie, and they changed their headwear to, I don't know what you call them, but like a flat cap, like we'd have it in the UK, right? I think, if I'm remembering that right. Anyway, they walk right through border control, and I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? It was so obvious and so stark and so frank, but to watch in front of you people having to change themselves and hide parts of themselves in order to, exist in whatever the aim is, in order to travel to a new place, a new country, and in order to find safety and solace in a new place. To have to, I don't know, I think it touched me on so many levels, and probably so many deep levels that I haven't had enough therapy to unpack yet. Like, literally, it left me really speechless. I feel like I don't have a lot to say about the show in general, except that it made me draw on my own experience a lot. I'm trying to remember what to say, but I did write loads of notes down, so I'm gonna go look on my notes. Oh, this is one thing that was really stark to me. I've said that word a few times. I'm not very good with imagining. What was I trying to say? I'm not very good at. I don't have an extensive vocabulary, is essentially what I'm saying. But so this was the first time I've seen a show of this kind of nature, of this theme, with performers as they are, coming from where they come from, with an artistic director in that way. God, that makes no sense. Hold those thoughts, I'm with you, I'll explain. In a place like the Theatre Royal, right? And not cringe, okay? Oftentimes I've seen shows and there's been a theme of immigration or refugees or what else has there been? Like just stuff, very similar themes. And I watch it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then something will happen and I'll cringe so hard because the creative team and the performers, there's something missing. There's something missing that they don't have. I'm gonna put words in other people's mouths. I'm gonna say it's lived experience. That's what feels more comfortable right now. I think lived experience is what's missing, from other pieces of work that I've seen. That means, sometimes someone says something or they do a movement or there's a piece of music that's so jarring and makes me go, that, and you want to support work like that. And in complete contrast, every piece of music and every movement on stage, I was totally wrapped up in the world of Kin and the world of Gecko and what was happening on the stage. I was totally in there, and not one moment did I step out of myself. I think often I have to critique a piece and go, ooh, that was a bit pastiche, that was a bit stereotypical, that wasn't very PC, I wouldn't have done that. And none of that happened the whole time I was watching, and it was refreshing but emotional to have get through the end of this review without crying. I'll try. To watch that, I guess the music meant a lot. You can tell when a piece of music has been shoved in because, it's a little bit Middle Eastern, this is a little bit generically Asian, we'll just slap this piece of music in when a character vaguely of that descent enters the stage. And often people have so many good intentions when they do that, I choose to believe, but you can tell straight away. But what I didn't realise is how much I was surrounded by that to see Ken made me go, oh my God, this is what it's like for it not to be a stereotype, and this is what it's like to not have a pastiche, And this is how you can represent so many different people's individuality, cultures, heritages, nationalities, without being disrespectful, without even walking the line of disrespectful. Like, you're just so far beyond it. It's just a true and honest, what's the word? Not exposure. It's a true and honest telling of the stories. I get my words tangled up because I'm already thinking about the next bit. Because basically, I was on YouTube this morning, and Emmett was speaking about another show. I'm just reading my notes, that mentioned the process with the performers is a dialogue, and they are encouraged to bring themselves and their humanity and vulnerability and feelings into the space. And I think you could tell that for sure. And I'll flick forwards to the most impactful part of the show for me, which actually left me a little bit embarrassed. I do feel quite embarrassed. At one point in the show, all the performers came to the front of the stage, said their name, said like about where they come from, their country, or where they've travelled from, and maybe why they're in the UK, or like where they've come from, something like that. Anyway, it was so short, just like a brief, this is me, this is who I am. Oh Jesus, that's the point at which I started crying. And I was crying so much, and then the show finished minutes afterwards, so I didn't get, when you cry in a show and then it's a musical, then there's a happy finale and they get married, woo, happy, clap clap clap, and sorry, my alarm went off, I got distracted. Anyway, so you've got time to recover from the tears before it's over. No, the show ended, the lights go up, everyone's clapping, standing ovation. I couldn't stand up because I had my rucksack on my lap, and I was looking for tissues. Anyway, all the aforementioned friends start coming round. Oh my god! I mean, no, actually, no one was jazzed. Everyone was like, whoa. But some people were like coming to like have conversations. And I just had to turn and look at them. And some of these people were acquaintances, so I didn't even have a good relationship with them. And I was just leaking from my eyeballs, essentially, bawling my eyes out. And people were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Paul Smethurst was there, and oh god, I'm gonna say what his role in Gecko is. I can't remember. Anyway, works for Gecko. But he's also a good friend, and just held me after the show because he was like, "What do you need? Do you want me to hold you?" And I was like, "Yes, please hold me." Because it was just, it left me absolutely speechless. I think it left a lot of people speechless. And it meant a lot to have that sort of story being told on stage. So Anna Madeka, my auntie, if you don't know her, she also starred in The Island with me. But if you're listening to this and you don't know Anna, I really recommend you go and find out about her because she's my best friend. That's not why you should find out about her. You should find out about her because she's an amazing musician and artist in Norwich. Anyway, she was there because she's on the board at the theatre. And watching the show through my eyes, but also reflecting and thinking, Anna is watching this show right now. And Anna has a one-woman show that spoke about her experience of travelling to this country. And England, I mean. And I think in one of my recent videos, I don't know if by the time this voice note comes out, sorry, podcast, I will have released it, but I made a video about Dixon MBI's show that was at Dance East in 2022, I think. And in that video, I remember speaking about journeys and and this whole show, Kin, was about journeys, but also my show, The Islands, was about journeys. This show was nothing like The Islands whatsoever, but I couldn't stop thinking about it because there were so many similarities. Now, I know what you're thinking. Rosy, how dare you compare your own work to Gecko? I know, pretty arrogant, but I'm not comparing my work to Gecko. I'm comparing the themes and the ideas, and I think, and also to Anna's piece, Kuri Kuri, and also to Makhadi's piece, who I mentioned in the Dixon video, but I can't, or the Orphan Stain. All these pieces have a theme of like journeying, and although that's not the main theme necessarily for all of those pieces, it was definitely there. And one thing that is most prominent, I think, is the main creative, or like the creative director, I guess, of all those different projects is either an immigrant to England or the product of immigration, essentially. Now that in itself doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I also think it means a whole deal. Like, I've just mentioned 4 really contrasting shows. Interestingly, all 4 have movement, which I think maybe says something. I don't know if that says anything to immigration, that we'd all like to express ourselves physically. But they're 4 very different pieces, 4 very different projects, and even then, there's still a sense of, yeah, I get this from this one. You know, I saw the journey you went on there. I saw the assimilation that happened there. I saw like a hodgepodge of different nationalities and ethnicities, and all coming together, and negotiation, but also racism, discrimination. I'm trying to think of more things, but that was really cool for me to be like, this reminds me so much of other work that I've seen or produced myself. And why is that? I wish I was a slightly more well-versed, educated podcast creator, and I could be like, well, it's this because blah 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 and XYZ, but I'm not that type of podcast person. This is a random, quirky, intense, weird podcast, in which I try to make a review of Gecko. I don't know why I thought I had the audacity to do that, but here we are. I will leave you with one note, unless there's anything else I want to mention. It feels like I'm just doing it anyway. I'll say cool things that I thought from my notebook. Okay, basically, oh yeah, they used puppetry, and it felt like the most natural way of adding those 2 characters. Like, it was, of course. I can't imagine these 2 characters being portrayed in any other way than the way they were, and it was beautiful. I really liked that. It feels like nothing I have ever been a part of or ever consciously studied at college. True. True. Definitely, like, the company in general, and how I noticed on, like, I looked at their Instagrams, and they like call themselves devising performers, and I was like, that is a sick name. Like, that's really cool. I've not been in that situation or that scenario, but I'd like to be. I think that is a really cool way of working and creating work, but I work on my own all the time. So that's definitely something I'm looking into with my new show. Like, I'm trying to work with other choreographers. Anyway, that's a tangent. Basically just saying I want to work with people. What else did I say? The singing and music was incredibly powerful. Yes, so much. So powerful. Like, I don't know if this is music that can be shared, old school, like, is there a CD? Please let there be a CD, or at the very least a Spotify playlist, because I would buy it. and I would listen to it in the car because that's where I listen to CDs. So if anyone's listening and that is happening, or you can make that happen, then please, I would recommend it to so many people. There's nothing else of interest in my notebook. It's not very, yeah, I didn't have a lot to say really. I've just gone on a massive tangent about life. Anyway, the last thing I will part you with, which is the quote that I hope convinces you to go and watch more Gecko work, or if you can watch Kin on tour in 2024, then I actively implore you to do so. Oh, this is a joke, by the way, because it's a shit quote. Basically, when the show finished, all that came to mind, I was with, who was I with? I was with Esther, Paul, and Rebecca. And I was like, oh, and they were like, what? And I was like, oh, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it because it's stupid. And they were like, no, say it. And I was like, okay, well, all I was going to say was, it feels like I'm crying as much as I did the first time I saw Les Mis in the cinemas. And they all laughed, and I'm glad they laughed because I wasn't sure if it was a really rude thing that I'd said. I hope it wasn't rude. But that's my quote, you know? Made me cry as much as it did when I watched Les Mis in the cinemas. So with that, I bid you goodbye. Go and watch Kin because they're amazing. Okay. Love you, bye.